Hi everybody, quick rundown on my miniguns and what I think of them. This is obviously a personal view, it's just the way I feel about them when I use them. I'm not a professional painter, so I'm not doing it all the time, but I do paint reasonably regularly and enjoy it, so I can only give the way I feel about something. But I've got quite a few miniguns, as you can see. This is a couple of them, or a few of them, and they're, they are what they are, I guess. So I'll just run through what I think about them and how I feel about them, and the pluses and the minuses. So ANI R150, SRI ProLite, Lph80, happens to be a limited edition one, but it is just an Lph80. And a Sata 440B Minijet. It's the RP, not the HVLP one. So start with the ANI R150. Now I'm doing this upside down because that's the way the camera is, so it should come out okay for you. So ANI R150 comes as standard with a 250ml pot, which most of the time is ideal. I've got they do a small pot, which is I think about 100ml, something like that, which is good for small stuff, especially if you're getting into with bike parts and things like that, and I guess wheels, if people are doing wheels on cars and things like that. It's handy for getting into places and the pot's not too big and like ends up knocking whatever you're doing. So that's quite good. The good points about it as well is they're about £8, and they also do, which I got at the same time, again about £8. £8 equivalent to about $12 US at the moment, $11 US, about €10, something like that. They do a 500ml. Sorry, actually, I think it's 600. Has it got on the side? No, it's 500ml. 500ml pot, which looks huge on a small gun, but if you've got a lot to do and you're not worried about the size of the pot, then it's handy to have. And as I say, they're relatively inexpensive, they're about £8 sterling. So the one that comes with it is the 250. The pots come in for a bit of criticism sometimes, but I found the best way to do them and to get on with it is to put the pot on top, turn it backwards until it drops, and once it drops, just turn it round to seal it, and it works absolutely flawlessly. Because if you're trying to put it on like that, you end up sometimes with one side up and the other side sealed down, and it can leak out if you're turning the gun round. So put it on backwards so that it seats, and then push it forward so that it seals, and it's absolutely fine. Have a sealing washer underneath here, which is changeable. I think it's about £4-5 sterling, $8 US, something like that, for a pack of 10. I've put a new one in this one, and I've got another gun that I put a new one in, but it's very rare. You have to change them. You can see I look after my guns anyway. I give them a good clean. They're not on the go all the time. If you're a professional guy and you're doing this all the time, then you don't expect the guns to be quite looked after so much, because it's pointless cleaning them in the morning and then using them again in the afternoon. Unless obviously it's 2K stuff, in which case it can actually set inside the gun. So yeah, I'm sure I don't need to tell anybody about gun cleaning. So good points, not expensive. The pots are good money wise if you want to, the different sizes. For me, the trigger fits in the hand perfectly. It just feels, of all these guns here, this gun feels the best in my hand. I'm about a size 9 glove, so I'm biggish hands, not huge hands, but biggish hands, 9.5, something like that, and it feels absolutely perfect. So that for me is a plus point. Weight is good. They're all relatively light. Weight is good. Sprays really well, which I guess at the end of the day is what we're all after. I really can't fault it. I always used to fault them on the pots, because I used to end up putting it cack-handed like that. You're trying to do something quickly, and that's how it ended up. But I found this way of turning it back and forward is absolutely fine. So really good gun, can't think of any negatives really. Yeah, very, very good gun. Next one in the line is the SRI ProLite. Again, really good gun, probably my favourite for finish. It probably edges this slightly. I say probably because it's just maybe the way I paint. If other people use it, they might find this one's better or not. But you know, obviously this is objective. It's just the way I feel, and I'm just conveying that to you really. But yeah, really, really good gun. Doesn't feel quite as good in my hand as this one. Slightly lighter actually. Yeah, slightly lighter than that, but there's nothing in it whatsoever, so you probably wouldn't notice it. Controls are really nice, probably the best here. Feel really nice to use, accurate, just work really, really well. This has a sealing, it's like a plastic crush baffle, plastic crush baffle underneath there, so you remove that and then the plastic baffles underneath, you remove it and clean it at the same time, and that gradually over time depresses, so you need to change that to keep a seal on the front here, otherwise it can bob back through the pot. About £4 each, £5 each, so what's that, $8 US, something like that. So for me, not much of a headache because I'm not using them that much, so they don't tend to get worn out that quickly. One of the drawbacks with this is the cost of the pots. An additional pot, a smaller pot, sorry, a bigger pot, if you wanted a bigger pot, is horrendous. It's about £45, so about $65 US. Hence to say I haven't got one. I don't feel I need one. I mean, one of the points of a minigun for me is having a small pot so that it's easily easily movable without damaging too much stuff. But if you're doing like clear panels, then obviously you're just sweeping along. You're not worried about the pot really. The big pot doesn't get in the way. Lph80. I don't use this a lot. Of all these guns here, I suppose the one I use the most it would probably be those two simultaneously. I probably don't use either of those more than each other, but I use those two much more than these two. This one comes standard pot, which is about 70 millilitres, I think, something like that. And I bought the kit. It's a limited edition kit. You buy the same thing in the non-limited edition. Limited edition is just black chrome really, the other ones are just polished. You get that with it as well, which is 250 millilitres, I think. Really worth having if you feel that you'll need a bigger pot than the little one, simply because you're paying about £20, so about $28 US, something like that, for this pot, and to buy it on its own they're about £40–50, so $70 US. So it definitely, if you think you'll need a bigger pot, go for the kit with a bigger pot, because you're paying very little money for it. Likes about this, well, it is really small, it's really well engineered. I come from an engineering background, so when I look at it you think yeah, really well made. Part of me doesn't want to use it simply because it is a limited edition and the various parts on it aren't easily replaced, because they're, you know, if you bought a standard end cap, for example, it would come with a silver finish rather than a gold. So, you know, I tend not to use it that often, but the main reason I don't use it is it just doesn't fit right in my hands. One finger is no good. I just feel that it's not quite right with one finger. I like to have two fingers on the trigger, and two fingers is just, it just pushes into me there. It just feels too small, and that's quite a personal preference. If you had a smaller hand, that might feel ideal. Good fan, really fine atomization, but so do these. You know, these atomize really fine as well. So I couldn't say, you know, anyone's better than the other really for spraying. The spray fan on that one is smaller than the others, but I'll come to that after this, because this one for me, I bought this about 3 months ago. I think I did an unboxing video on it, and I've hardly used it. I've used it twice actually, and I just don't get on with it at all. It feels worse in the hand than that one. The trigger is again pushing into me there, so it feels like it's too small for me. Big fan, biggest of these four by well, I was going to say a mile, but by about an inch basically. Well made. You know, you look at it and you think, well, it's probably going to last, well made, etc. But for me, the biggest drawback with this is this here, the adjustment for the needle. It looks really bad and it feels really bad. I mean, you get something like this, which is really, sorry, that one, really smooth on the needle, really nice. This stays where it's put and you just adjust it as and when you want it. With this one, you have to loosen off this collar, adjust the needle to the position you want it, and tighten it up. And I know you're not adjusting the needle all the time. A lot of people will find a sweet spot and they will just keep it like it, but when you're doing small parts, you do adjust the fluid. Well, I do anyway. Maybe it's just my style, but I do adjust the fluid quite often, and it just feels rubbish to me. And it's really put me off the gun. I just can't help thinking how much it's put me off the gun, really. So a combination of not feeling too good in the hand, supposedly feeling well made, but not, to me, not feeling really well made. It's just, yeah, I just don't get on with it at all. So considering that's by far the most expensive. In fact, you'd get nearly 3 of these, the ANI R150s. You get nearly 3 of those compared to the 440 Sata Minijet, and it just doesn't suit me at all. It does happen with things, I guess, that it doesn't suit people. So how big is a minigun compared to the normal guns? Well, I'll get that's a GTI ProLite, and that will give you an idea. Now it's a 600mm cup. I have recently got a smaller cup for this actually, but it will give you an idea of what they're like. Let's take this off and lay it across there, so that should give you an idea of it. But same here, a little bit more out here, obviously a bigger head, bigger fan, and comes at the back more. So the gun's not loads bigger, although the head is bigger, and I guess it's the big pot that makes it look different, but in the hand they feel totally different. This feels much more unwieldy, which is fine if you've got a load of room, but if you're doing intricate parts, something like this just feels so much better. Okay, so that's my rundown. As I say, I'm not a professional painter, but I do paint a bit, and I do enjoy what I'm doing, and that's just what I feel about these various guns. People have their different favourites for whatever reason. Fan size on these, smallest would be that. Next would be the R150, and by a very small amount bigger fan would be the SRI ProLite, and obviously bringing up the rear would be the Lph80. But the Lph80 from an engineering point of view is really well made, but so are the others really. But for the money, this thing is really good, really good. So yeah, I hope that's helped people, because when I was looking at miniguns, you sort of like think to yourself, well, what's the size? I presumed that something like this was the similar size or same size as that, but they're not. They certainly don't feel it in the hand. They don't look too different next to each other, but in the hand they feel totally different. And the experience of having something in your hand, to me anyway, adds to the whole experience of painting. As I say, I'm not doing it for a living, so I'm not having to do it with whatever I've got. I buy stuff because I enjoy it and it's a hobby of mine, and you know, you use things because you enjoy using them, so the way they feel is part of the package. Okay, well, I hope that helps someone. Yeah, as I say, thanks very much anyway. Bye bye.